magic for a good blast here at your side.
Welcome to Hokey Religion, the Star Wars podcast. This is Tyler.
This is Michael.
And we're here for episode 50.
Episode 50.
We actually are going to do a real episode for 50, unlike we've been bullshitting about.
For the 40... Oh, no. I thought you were saying for the last 49 episodes we've been... It's just not...
it was all
fake.
It was all fake. This is when we actually have energy and put effort into it.
Every 50 episodes.
If you've stuck around this long, you're in for a treat.
You're in for a real doozy.
Yep.
A doozy treat.
Yeah. So it is episode 50, which, of course, we are a bi-weekly show.
Every other week.
Which means we're getting real close to 2 years old.
Yep.
Which is pretty awesome.
In...
August.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say
next month.
October for some reason.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yes.
So, Michael, what has been going on Star Wars-wise with you in the last week?
Nothing really. Nothing Star Wars-wise.
Exciting. Good.
I was playing a lot of MAME games earlier before I came over here.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Why? Why not?
I don't know.
I was playing Root Beer Tapper for a little while, and I did... what was it called? UN Squadron. You ever played that?
No.
That was a good one.
How was that last word spelled?
Scourgeon.
It's okay. I'll sound it out phonetically. And
That's UN Scourgeon.
UN Scourgeon.
You ever play UN Scourgeon?
Sure.
That one was good. Super Tank by Video Games Incorporated.
That's all good.
Tempest.
Tempest is good.
What else did I play? 1942.
For all of those people out there that have no idea what we're talking about.
Everyone knows MAME games.
Do they?
Yes, come on.
Do the children know, Michael? Think of the children.
Arcade emulators. Come on. Everybody knows
There's
that.
so many people that none
Everybody
of those words
knows that.
mean anything to them
Oh, please.
at all.
Tweet at Tyler if you know what I'm talking about.
Tweet your main memes to Tyler
Please.
for making that pun.
That's
Well, today...
We've run out of energy.
No. Yesterday and today
Couple
was the
minutes in.
beginning of D23, the Disney Expo.
Getting right into it.
What
was up with you during the week for
There's
Star Wars?
nothing. I was deathly ill for a while there. It was real bad.
All right.
I'm glad I can talk today.
I tried.
Star Wars. Nope. It was just work. That's all this week.
It's just work.
It was just catching up on being sick.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
It's bad.
Yeah. But thankfully, D23 happened, starting last night with the press preview.
Yeah.
And then today was the full-on news coming out.
Yep.
Which was fantastic.
Well, wait, hold on. I don't want to just go right. We always just go right into it.
Let's just go into the Star Wars things we have to talk about.
Well, let me say real quick before we get into it, we wanted to do something a little different for 50. So we're going to have, we tweeted out a question earlier in the week, last couple weeks. Send us your Star Wars stories. Send
Star
us
Wars
your
memories,
your
how
memories.
things like that. So a few people responded.
A few people, and then we wanted to we kind of realized that we have never, at least from what I can remember, we've never really talked about why we do this show, why we still follow this stupid franchise still to this day, how we got into it, all that junk. I don't think we've really gotten into detail about that.
We had said from the beginning, that the fact that we would talk about Star Wars whether we had the show or not, but
Right.
I don't think we've ever
But why?
really
We never
talked
said why.
about our origin with Star Wars, why we care about it, where we're coming from as people, and we figured, hey, it's episode 50. Let's reminisce a little, get nostalgic. So second half of the episode, we'll get into the nostalgia. But due to D23, there are many exciting things.
So we'll talk about that first.
Yes.
So anyway, D23 happened.
It did. And it was fantastic.
The first thing to come out of D23 Star Wars related was a giant diorama.
Yes.
Big 3D model, extremely well put together. Painted.
It was not a shit diorama. It was fantastic. And the fact that it was produced by Disney.
Cardboard.
No, it was a full layout of Star Wars Land, which has a name now. It is called Star Wars Galaxy's Edge.
Galaxy's Edge.
That was just released, literally moments before we started recording this episode.
Which goes along with what they were saying at Star Wars Celebration, where this world is in the universe. Like, it's not... You know how, like, Harry Potter land is kind of supposed to be a mirror? Like, it's supposed to make you feel like you're there.
It's Hogwarts, and it's that backstreet place. Jeez,
Diagon Alley.
Face.
Diagon Alley.
That's it.
Hog's Face.
Diagon Alley. Skid Row.
Twisted Sister.
Heart. No.
Van Halen.
So it's meant to be an exact, like miniature replica of.
Well, wait. I didn't finish my
Potter.
thread real quick.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, Harry Potter is like it's supposed to be a mirror,
a miniature mirror of that familiar place.
Okay, yeah. I thought you were gonna go somewhere else with that, but this is like in universe. It's a world in. It's canon, if you will.
A canon location that is some other off the beaten path world, which I know we talked about this after Star Wars Celebration because there was a panel about that. But just to reinforce that, it's some other world within the Star Wars universe that exists, and you're just there visiting, basically.
Yeah.
It's an old outpost that's kind of just been forgotten and lost to time, but it's still, you've got your bounty hunters hanging out, you've got your cantinas, all of that. So there's a full layout there's a full diorama of the whole land, and there's like a full-size TIE fighter on property, a full-size A-Wing, X-Wing, the Millennium Falcon, of course. There's just a full-size Millennium Falcon outside.
There were some other random ships out there.
Yeah.
There's, you could see from the construction pictures now, at least out here at Disney World, you can see frames of AT-AT walkers, and those are supposed to be in some kind of hangar or something.
Yeah, it looks like some kind of hangar.
I couldn't quite pick that out from the pictures, but that's supposed to be there.
Yeah,
somewhere. Maybe it's that there's a big.
There's a big square building like near the middle. I'm wondering if they're inside there, if they're like old,
near the hangar,
or if they're part of that ride that I was mentioning to you before this podcast,
which
we'll talk about in a minute, or we can talk about now. Just get on with the rides. So there are a couple rides going to be at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Of course, one being the Millennium Falcon ride we already heard about at Star Wars Celebration. The fact that you and others will be piloting the Millennium Falcon. You'll be shooting blasters or preparing for hyperspace, all while completing some kind of mission. So this is directly from something that was said. It's how you perform on the mission holds even bigger stakes. Perform with skill, and you may earn extra galactic credits, while bringing the ship back banged up could put you on a list of a bounty hunter, end up on Harko's list, and you may face a problem if you show up at the local cantina. But one other quick thing they blew by, as far as, they're saying there's going to be two major attractions, which will put guests in the middle of a battle between the First Order and the Resistance. The other attraction that's not the Millennium Falcon is it will make you feel like you're on a Star Destroyer inside a hangar bay.
Wow.
It's an attraction built on a scale we've never done before.
Wow.
So I'm wondering if those AT-ATs are, unless they're old, it depends on if they're new AT-ATs, like those Gorilla Walkers.
Yeah.
Or if they're old AT-ATs. Because if they're old, they're not going to be on a First Order Star Destroyer hangar.
Well, yeah, is it First Order? It would have to be, right? Because it's
putting you in the battle between First Order and the Resistance. Yeah. So I'm wondering if those AT-ATs are in that ride.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or if they're actually just in some building outside that you can see, and it's cool.
The frames look like classic.
They do.
Regular AT-AT walkers.
But it was just steel frames at that point.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So, and of course, there's going to be cantinas where you can have blue milk, and there's places you can get trinkets, and of course, you can still see BB-8, Chewbacca, members of the First Order.
For pictures and stuff? Or
yes. Oh. And among many others, Rex, the troublesome pilot you may remember from the previous version of the Disney attraction.
Really?
Who is now the DJ at the local cantina. Yeah, so good.
No, that's bad. That's like the guy in the Starlight Cafe.
I love him.
No, he's awful.
I love that place so much.
You sit up front and you get blasted with that music the whole time.
You got to sit in the back and just take it in. No, I love Rex.
The only seats available.
Rex is great, though. I'm glad they kept Rex around because he is such a classic. And voiced by Paul Rubens. That's the word I was looking for. No, Rex is awesome. I'm glad they kept him in some capacity.
Voiced by
in the
RuPaul.
Ruben stuttered.
See the American Idol guy.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yep. And of course, all of this is opening in 2019 for the parks.
Yes.
Even better,
Coming
something
up.
we talked about a while back was there was a rumored, what was it? It was like a questionnaire going out for some group for like product testing group thing for a resort, a fully immersive Star Wars resort.
That's right. Yeah,
And
with
it was,
concept art and
it
everything.
was fairly, just a rumor at that point because it was just a questionnaire going out about this, and it was going out through a legitimate source, but there was never anything official about it. Well, today it's official that the artwork, the like pre-production artwork that we saw with that questionnaire was shown at D23, and it was announced that this resort will be unlike anything that exists today. From the second you arrive, you will become a part of a Star Wars story. You'll immediately become a citizen of the galaxy and experience all that entails, including dressing up in the proper attire. They give you clothes to be part of Star Wars.
Really?
Once you leave Earth, so you're basically going on a Star Wars cruise, if you will, like a starship cruise. So you're going to leave Earth.
But in a
you will
building.
discover a starship alive with characters, stories, and adventures that unfold all around you. It is 100% immersive, and the story will touch every single minute of your day, and it will culminate in a unique journey for every person who visits.
Man, that sounds so cool.
So it is basically like Star Wars LARPing the resort.
Yeah. Well, wait. Does that mean so you go back to your room at 11 o'clock at night or whatever, and there's still like aliens banging around in the hallways?
There's aliens banging in the hallways, and I mean, I guess they can do whatever they want in their hotel room too. Who am I to say stop banging in your room, aliens?
Can you open the door and come in here?
Sure. I don't know how aliens feel about swinging.
Oh boy.
No, but a fully immersive resort with attire and everything sounds like a dream.
Yeah.
It sounds fantastic.
It's
I will
crazy.
be announcing my early retirement and moving there permanently for 2 days, and then I will be broke, and I'll be coming back home because I'm sure it's going to cost
can you imagine how much this is
so
going
much
to cost?
money. It's going to be so expensive. For a full, I'm assuming if it's that immersive, I'm assuming
Full
it has to
inclusive
be
meals.
It
and
probably
all
has
that
to be
junk.
all inclusive. It's basically going to be like a cruise at a hotel.
Yeah.
But you're not going to know you're at a hotel because it's supposed to be a starship.
Right.
Yeah.
So how does leaving work?
It's going to be real
Did
expensive.
they let you leave to go
They
to the
pick you up
parks
in
and
a
stuff?
windowless van. Just make sure it's the right windowless van.
Bonk you on the head.
Yes.
You get dropped off at your little space capsule.
Even though there's no windows, they still hit you on the head. Just in case.
Just in case.
Just in case you figure out where you're going. I don't think the resort's going to be in an undisclosed location. I'm assuming it's going to be like some kind of like port-esque place where you like check in, and then then you're like bored into the hotel.
I bet you it's going to be like well, no, I can't think of anything else that's like this.
No.
It'll probably be on the studio's property, right? So it'll be connected to Star Wars
somewhere.
Land? Maybe?
Yeah, it makes sense if it's connected to Star Wars Land. And that was
that would
that was
be-
the thought of it being like butted up against Star Wars Land, but
Because that would be
I
cool
don't know.
because, yeah, you'd show up and have your trip or whatever, and then you'd
Yeah.
be free for the day, and you could land at this planet.
you can
know,
take a
whatever it
shuttle,
is.
take a shuttle down to the planet.
Yeah, something, yeah.
Yeah. That'd
Disney
be cool.
bus.
God forbid.
If they do that, it's probably within walking distance. I don't know.
Maybe.
Man, that would be
I can't
great.
wait.
It's
The resort sounds so amazing. And the fact that it's coming to Disney World and is going to be here right by us.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
So excited.
so much easier to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to.
If I don't have to travel that far. Yeah, it's even less money because it's here. It's a deal.
No.
This is a steal. We gotta
It's
go there
$6,000
every weekend.
plus airline tickets or whatever you have to do to get here.
Yeah.
But it sounds like
It sounds like a stroke. But it is there was no release date. There's no like date or opening date for the resort. It was just announced. So I'm assuming that will not be ready in 2019 when the park is. I assume it will be much later.
Yeah.
Because I don't even know of any construction going on for that currently.
But it's only concept art and stuff right now. So
yeah, so mid to late 20s probably. Forever from right now.
Have to wait a while for that one.
Yes. Other than attractions in Star Wars World, which is now called Galaxy's Edge, of course, I keep wanting to call it Star Wars Land. There was a live action movie panel which had only information about The Last Jedi. They very quickly breezed over Han Solo, basically saying Kathleen Kennedy's not here because she's in London with Ron Howard overseeing the Han Solo film.
Freaking out.
So now we're going to talk about The Last Jedi. Yeah, it was just like Kathleen's working on this right now. Anyways, yes, okay, all right, good, we get it.
They're both
She's
there, freaking out,
sitting on Ron Howard's shoulder, watching everything, making sure it's going well.
Get it right.
Yeah, basically. And I think it's so funny since Ron Howard has showed up, he's like been like tweeting pictures and Instagram photos of like wardrobes and stuff. It's like, I'm the new fun director. Look at me doing my thing now.
I think he kind of has to do that because if he doesn't do that, it's gonna seem like it's even worse.
Yeah, probably.
It's even in more. He's trying to like make it look.
Yeah. Look, everything's good. There's still a wardrobe not on fire.
See, there's still a movie happening.
Look at these clothes that aren't burning.
We promise.
No burn marks on anything. Nothing was on fire. Look at these clothes. Perfect. Anyways.
Who would be on fire?
I don't know. Just everything was on fire. At one point, everything was on fire. All of it.
They kicked Phil and Chris out on fire out of...
Yeah, that's how you do it at Disney. They light you up and you throw you out. No, but they quickly breezed over that. There was no other announcements of any standalone films. There was not a Han Solo film name, title, nothing. Except for The Last Jedi. And half of everyone was there. Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Gwendolyn Christie, Kelly Marie Tran, Laura Dern, Benicio del Toro, and Mark Hamill.
That's everybody.
Like everybody but
except Oscar
Isaac and Kylo.
Everyone that's alive.
Everyone that's alive. Well, no, Kylo Ren. Adam Driver was not there either.
But I mean, that's what I mean.
That's pretty much everybody.
Pretty much everybody who is still
living.
Alive.
Yes. So yeah, so almost
both in universe and out.
Unfortunately. So yeah, they were all there, and of course there were some words said about the film, like Laura Dern. You know, there's
bad words.
Ryan Johnson was showing some photos he took, as he does. You know, like Laura Dern with a gun, and her saying that she had trouble not saying pew when she was shooting the gun in the film. I can imagine that lady, Laura Dern, running around going pew 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 with a blaster. It's a great picture in my head. And like, you know, Benicio del Toro saying that he saw New Hope in theaters when he was 10, and Mark Hamill saying there's a lot of unexpected elements in The Last Jedi. And then at one point, John Boyega says Finn's about to have a fight with a formidable opponent, and then like gave Gwendolyn Christie the stare down, basically saying that at some point Finn and Phasma are gonna duke it out, which is kind of cool. That will be a very interesting fight. Do
you think that'll be hand-to-hand combat or
slap fight? Oh, yeah. Is that pillow fight? What else? What's sexier than a pillow fight? I don't know.
I don't know.
There's nothing sexier than a pillow fight. I assume it will be some kind of hand-to-hand combat, some type of. I don't think they're just gonna be like shooting from behind cover back and forth at each other for.
Well,
a while.
I'm thinking, like, how cool would it be to have them like do some John Wick style, like close quarters blaster junk, you know, like really coordinated,
like narrowly dodging and grabbing each other's arms and like shooting by each other's heads type of thing.
That's something I could see Phasma doing, but Finn is just he was a janitor.
He wouldn't be able to reach her arms. I don't know.
Maybe.
She is so tall.
And he couldn't reach her arms? That's how tall she is?
So tall. 2 Wookiees in a trench coat.
But I mean, Finn's a janitor. He wouldn't. That would be kind of.
But
weird.
he was trained.
If he could suddenly.
He was trained, and he was part of Phasma's crew.
He's not a secret.
He fights her with a mop. She has a staff, and he has a mop handle.
I guess
he breaks off the mop part and throws it on her helmet. It sticks to it.
Space mop.
She can't see. Yeah, exactly.
Just an energy beam. It looks exactly like a real Mupp, except the little the fibers are just energy beams.
Just floppy like noodle, like a lightsaber, but just like little floppy noodle energy beams.
Yeah.
It really scrubs the dirt out. Sure.
Scrubs.
Why not? It scrubs that space dirt right off.
About.
No, I don't know anymore. And we were hoping for new footage, and we got new footage. And we got that behind the scenes reel that we had thought we were going to get at one point or another. I was thinking it was going to be at San Diego Comic-Con or something like that.
When is that?
Or around that time.
That's coming
it's like
soon,
next week.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But they went ahead and showed it at D23 because I guess that's the big thing now.
Well, it's their convention.
It's their convention. They can do whatever they want.
When they were leading up to it, you were texting me during all this. When they were leading up to it, I thought it was going to lead to a
new trailer. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, this was
think
great.
it's too soon since the last trailer, right?
We
It's
need
only
a
been
real
couple
trailer.
months. We do need a real trailer, but that's not.
I mean, because
be
they
end of summer.
called the celebration thing a teaser, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So we still don't have a real trailer, but we got the behind the scenes, which showed tons of awesome aliens. We saw those little birds that we've been talking about, supposedly called porgs, the ones from Acto.
Yes, that's right.
Which look like little tiny penguins, basically, like little tiny flying penguins,
like owls with tiny
like
owls
little
without
owl
ears.
penguins. Like if owls and penguins had some kind of freak crossbreed, it would be
the size of a
porg.
puffin.
Yeah, like a little tiny bird. We saw those. We saw the animatronic one they showed was so real looking.
Yeah, that was.
I thought it was CG the first couple times I saw it, and then I had to keep going back, and I was like, those eyelids are animatronic.
That was
That
something
is so
I noticed with all the other creatures in there too. Like there are a lot of real.
It's all still practical
stuff,
I mean,
and it all looked amazing. Like it looked very.
It looked real,
lifelike.
Yeah.
There was one other. Gosh, I can't remember what it was now. There was one other one that they did a close up of.
There's like an ice wolf.
It was two
too,
things
which was super
laughing.
cool.
Do you remember that? There was like two aliens
like that cantina
laughing.
type aliens like laughing at each other.
And it was like, oh my gosh, that looks so real.
Yeah, there's so many.
It was so weird.
They showed a lot of those like aliens that are from like that party photo we've seen. Just all the animatronics and aliens look fantastic.
Yeah, there's going to be some crazy stuff.
Yeah. So, we got to see there's, explosions and seeing Rey running with her really cool lightsaber, her Force Effects lightsaber, basically.
Fighting with it, yeah.
Fighting with it.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was.
Lots of practice shots. Right, there's a super cool, like, ice wolf.
Yeah, that thing right there.
Yeah, it's basically like a wolf / fox
like
that's
a
made of
chandelier.
ice crystals.
It looks like a chandelier with a head on it.
It's really,
but there's
really
interesting.
This
isn't that those
that's
tall
that
horse
That's that
things?
horse. That really tall horse, like in a stable that we see Finn and.
But I mean, look at it
Tran on
moving.
at some point.
It looks incredible.
Yeah, and its head's moving around, and it has like a motion to its face.
It's crazy.
The animatronics now are so intense.
This little mushroom guy, ball sack guy,
little mushroom dude,
little ball sack here with
ILM and their animatronics are getting amazing. And
it looks like a Muppet. That little
Disney
thing.
with their animatronics too, has been amazing. Like at Disney, there's a new Pandora world from Avatar, and there's a ride.
Yeah,
and there's
one of the Na'vi, and
like the way that thing moves
Queen
with its arms and its fingers and its wrists, like it looks so real. It's scary.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So their animatronics are getting
out of control.
Yeah, I mean that point of that. What's that word I'm looking for? Where things look slightly off because they're not real.
Oh, that
with
thing.
Robots, like
it wasn't laughing. It was it was at the casino. I'm going back real quick and looking at this. He's got a little suit on.
the little mushroom.
No, not the mushroom guy. There are two little guys here
wearing tiny tuxedos.
Tiny suits. One of them's laughing.
And they're like little frog people. Yeah, they're fantastic.
Anyway.
Yeah, they're just that thing, that weirdness you get when you look at, something that's fake that almost looks real is basically gone with these animatronics now, where they just look real, and it's hard to differentiate them from not being real. Yeah. Which is so good.
There's a shot in here of Finn opening up his little medical bubble. Did you see that?
Like waking up, I guess.
Pretty great. Phasma's armor looks incredible, super shiny.
Yeah.
It's a lot of good things to dissect.
But the best part is all the things that are being said through the whole behind the scenes trailer.
Yes.
They're just pumping us up for the film. So at one point during the behind the scenes, Daisy Ridley is saying that Ryan has written a story that is unexpected but right. Some of the stuff that happens, people are going to be like, "Oh my god." And then Mark Hamill says, even though I think I know it all, they throw things at me story-wise I never could have imagined.
Yeah.
And then Daisy Ridley says again, even though everybody knows this is the second in the trilogy, it feels like its own thing. Gwendolyn Christie was saying something and said, even with the characters we know and love, we are seeing their lives change. John Boyega says, everything is being shifted in an opposite way to what the audience expected after 7. Ryan has made Star Wars fresh and new.
That is, I think, the most interesting quote.
And then Ryan Johnson said, I am hoping it will be a little shocking, but I'm hoping it will feel real and honest.
Yeah. That thing Boyega says, that's the most interesting
Star Wars
to me.
is fresh and new.
Well, before that
it's shifting in a way opposite what everyone thought from episode 7.
So what is... all right, we'll have to do this another episode because
maybe
I could talk about
haven't
this
had.
for a while.
I mean, that was just this morning. I haven't had enough time to really sit with it and think about it for a long time. I mean, just from what everyone's saying with it being intense, and there's going to be stuff like, oh my god, my first gut reaction is, okay, one of our main characters is going to die. And I kind of already thought that, but now I'm like, yeah, that's definitely happening.
I can see that.
Like a main character, like Finn or Kylo Ren, something like that. I don't think Rey or Luke will die.
No, they can't.
They're too new. Kelly Marie Tran or Laura Dern, like, they can be dispensable because they're new.
Maybe.
But I think someone that we love, like Finn or Poe or Kylo Ren, will be dead by the end of the film. But that's a whole nother conversation to get into.
Right.
But just the fact that it's going in an opposite direction with what everyone thought to episode 7, I don't even know what to think about that yet. I don't know what that could even mean. Just because, I didn't have an expectation really of where it was going, other than the fact that, okay, they're going to start trying to fight Kylo Ren and the Knights of Ren and then Snoke and, okay, sure.
That's what I'm thinking. Maybe it's not, this is not going in that direction. Maybe this is.
Kylo Ren turns back to the good side way sooner than we expected.
Something like that, yeah.
Snoke is a red herring. Or Snoke is like a mouth of Sauron. There's something even worse than Snoke, and we don't even know what Snoke is yet.
We keep getting these confirmations that this movie is going to go into the more like nuances about the Force.
Yeah, so this is probably a time just to give the official synopsis for the film that was released in a press packet. So this is the official synopsis in a press packet. In Lucasfilm's Star Wars The Last Jedi, the Skywalker saga continues as the heroes of The Force Awakens join the galactic legends in an epic adventure that unlocks age-old mysteries of the Force and shocking revelations of the past. Star Wars The Last Jedi opens in U.S. theaters on December 15th, 2017. So we're going to get age-old mysteries of the Force, unlocks age-old mysteries of the Force, and shocking revelations of the past. Like stuff about Palpatine or Anakin or Plagueis or, how far back? Because those books that Luke have are actual books, so they're crazy-ass old.
Yeah.
So, Old Republic, like...
Before the Sith?
Is Snoke some kind of old race from way back then that we don't even know about? And there's he's, like I said, like the mouth of Sauron, basically, from Lord of the Rings, but for some other worse evil that he's just... in charge of all this First Order stuff.
Yeah, it's completely, it's, it's all greenfield. It could be anything,
It literally could be anything.
And it's exciting.
It's very exciting. So I think a lot of the fact that they were saying that is people have still been freaking out. Like, The Force Awakens was just a rehash of A New Hope, and Last Jedi is just going to be another Empire Strikes Back. I think they were probably trying to go out of their way to be like, this is not what you're expecting, guys.
Yeah.
It's not just another, it's not another Empire Strikes Back. They're not.
Which kind of gives me more hope for 9. Because if it has to follow this and continue those storylines and bring them to an end, but still leave it open for something else, potentially.
Potentially, yeah.
That could be very exciting.
No, end of episode 9, it just zooms out and it's just a marble, like in Men in Black. The end of Star Wars. Then we all go to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge and burn it down. There's riots. It's a whole thing. It's plan B.
Somehow I think that's not going to happen.
No Star Wars marble.
I think because of the money involved.
they'll have the money already. It's over. They've got the money. They're out.
I think there's lots more money.
Disney shuts down. There's just no more Disney.
I don't know.
This was their plan. No? Sure.
I'm going to say no.
Fine.
No?
If that's how you feel about it. No, but everything that happened today with D23 just has me so excited for the new film. That's only in December.
Man, good job with them getting that focus off the Han Solo movie.
Yeah, right? Very much so.
Because
Kathleen's there, and
damn, I'm not thinking
a bunch of excitement.
I am not thinking about Han Solo right now.
No.
I'm thinking about this movie.
Yeah. Maybe they're like, shit, cut together a BTS thing. We gotta throw that up. We gotta distractions, jazz hands.
Kathleen is like in a studio tangled in old film.
Someone cut this together.
We can't do this.
And there is a fire like in the background. It's like a projector, like a film projector on fire. There's a film like melting and dripping from like
see
the
Ron
ceiling.
through a window, just like swinging his arms in the air. Phil and Chris are lighting the film on fire.
So episode 8 looks to be really good. Han Solo will be something that
It'll
shows
be
in theaters.
a movie.
I'm more
we will
excited now
see.
for Han Solo than I was, I think.
I disagree.
No?
I'm less excited now.
That's because you liked
I think just
Chris
because, not because
Phil.
I think it's going to be any worse, just because the excitement is kind of tapering off. I think once
Maybe.
we hear more about it and see things from it and all that, it might be a little bit more exciting.
Some point we'll see something from it. A
Eventually.
title. I mean, I guess they didn't. I guess they just really did not want us. I wonder if they were planning any Han Solo announcements for D23.
It's just going to be Han Solo, a Star Wars story,
Is it?
right? It would have to be.
I
It's
don't
the
know.
Han Solo movie. Why would they call it anything? What would they call it?
Han Solo, a thief in the night. I don't know. Pants smuggler. I don't know. What would?
I don't know.
I don't know. From zero to hero. That's the tagline.
Just like this.
Just like the film you're about to see. Everything is now better. 100% more film.
There's 100% more story than you had before this story.
Now featuring Han Solo. Chris, Phil, we can't make a movie without Han Solo in it. No, but it's all dream.
trust us.
It's all Lando's dream. Don't you get it? That was the thing they were trying to go off canon. Is Han Solo isn't even real. It's just a dream. And
Now with
robots
100% more Han Solo.
2% less shit. We left some in because
All
we
right.
had nothing else.
We want to do things a little differently right now. So what we're going to do is take a break.
Oh, shit.
The first break in Hokey Religion history. We're going to take...
It's
The first
it's a podcast. You can take a break whenever you feel like it, but we're going to take a break.
the first intentional break.
Sure.
We've
Why
had
not?
many unintentional breaks due to laptop problems.
Laptop failures,
Speaking of, I should probably put something under this.
laptops on fire, things like that. So now, in first ever in history, we are going to take a break.
We're going to take a break so I can cool off my laptop. And when we come back, we are going to talk about nostalgia.
Ooh,
The Star Wars stuff.
the Star Wars story. Our Star Wars story.
All right. Well, we'll be
All right.
back.
Enjoy your break.
It's okay.
welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the shittiest music we could find.
It's perfect.
It's definitely perfect for our show. It's like you're riding on an elevator. Who doesn't love elevators?
Elevators, the best thing.
The stench of people that were the history of fluids.
What? What are you trying to say?
Elevators.
The history of fluids? What does this have to do with elevators?
Doesn't every elevator smell like someone has recently had one of their fluids in the elevator?
Like a history of fluids?
Yeah. It's a tapestry of fluid, if you will.
I guess so.
It's scintillating.
Any fluid you can think of was here and is here.
Was there at some point.
Well, welcome back.
So now we're going to get a little nostalgic, talking about Star Wars, and we're going to cry, so grab your tissues. Or we're going to get sexy, so also grab your tissues. I don't know. It's up to you. Let's just do it for you. So, Michael, we do this podcast because we would talk about Star Wars all of the time, whether we had this podcast or not.
We do.
And that is because...
In fact, one of the worst problems we have with this podcast is the fact that we talk about Star Wars not on the podcast, and we don't take notes about what we talk about.
Not always.
So it's hard to remember.
Have to get better at that.
When we get to the show, what the heck
what was that
we
really
already
awesome
talked about
topic we had this week that we were arguing about on text?
Because we already talked about it and hashed it out and got angry at each other and
that
made
happens.
up and kissed and hugged and all that stuff.
Spoons.
Spoons, not spooning.
No,
spoons.
We played spoons. Don't you have a spoon duel? You play the spoons. It's
a spoon duel.
Ooh.
Don't you have a spoon duel?
I'll try that later.
After your arguments.
So yes, we would talk about Star Wars whether we had this podcast or not, and we still do, but we also have this podcast, so we're able to talk about Star Wars even more, and probably even more in depth than we were able to before. But we do that because we've both been fans of Star Wars since childhood. It wasn't like, new Star Wars movies are coming out.
It was a weird break.
We gotta jump on the bandwagon.
R.I.P. for childhood.
Pour one out for childhood. No, that we've been fans since...
Oh no, my laptop!
Oh God, sparks the fire. No, we've been fans since childhood, and that we didn't just jump on the bandwagon to talk about Star Wars with the podcast. I think we've said it in the past. We may have said it in the past. I don't even remember. We always wanted to have a podcast. We always wanted to do a podcast. It was never a Star Wars podcast. We had a really shitty podcast at one point.
We did.
There are 2 episodes of it
that we found
that we have the recordings of, and they're real bad.
I haven't listened to them.
I tried for about 2 seconds. I really turned it off. I have saved them, and we do want to release those someday.
Didn't we? Didn't we start it out with like Disturbed?
Oh yeah. The intro music was Disturbed. It was fantastic. It was like a tech news podcast, like a tech news ramblecast. It was
so bad.
Horrific.
So bad.
And only lasted 2 episodes because we just gave up and basically never tried anymore. But
did we give up, or did we fight about what we should do?
No, we kept talking about, we should do another episode. We should do another episode. And then we just never discussed it anymore. We just gave up. Because it wasn't something we were super passionate about. Obviously, we're both total nerds and we love technology, but putting together like a news ramble podcast, it wasn't what we wanted to be doing, and I think we both knew that.
Well, we have always wanted to do this, what we're doing now.
Podcasting.
Yes. Podcasting.
I'm
talking about
with oomph. With feeling.
Why with the fist? The fist.
Right up there.
The way that fist was angled. I don't appreciate
with
that.
Feeling.
With oomph. Ugh.
Yeah.
No, we've always wanted to do a podcast, but we've always wanted to do the way this podcast is, which is just sitting down and just talking.
Yes.
So the thing that we had before required some level of preparation.
Well, it's not like we don't prepare. This requires preparation, but Star Wars is very easy for us to prepare on because it is something we're already talking about and prepared to talk about at pretty much any moment's notice.
Because we're already
because we're already talking about Star Wars.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have like a tech news podcast, we got to like, what's interesting this week? Let's put this together. And then it didn't. And
nobody really cares about that stuff.
It didn't work. And
nobody cares about this, but
no
it's
one
fun
cares
to talk
about any of it. It's all just screaming into a hopeless void until we all die at an early age from diabetes.
All of us.
All Americans.
Diabetes coming for you.
Coming soon to you. But we always wanted to have a podcast, and for a long time we talked about like, what is the thing? What is the podcast that is something that we can just like talk and discuss and not have to
prepare?
Not so that it wouldn't feel forced. What would it be that would not feel forced and feel like, oh, these guys put together like, their shitty version of CNN about bicycles. I don't know.
CNN about bicycles.
That's a niche market, Michael.
What is that?
And someday my blog will get off the ground.
CNN about bicycles.
Yep.
24-hour bicycle news cycle. Get it. The pun is free.
It was just created for that pun. But it was always something of like, what is not forced? What is something that we can just do and talk about? And, well, Star Wars came around as something back into the mainstream with the active things to talk about every single day because there was always news and always something coming. And one day we were, we were talking over IM pretty much every single day about stuff about The Force Awakens when it was first announced.
Yeah.
And at one point I was like, wait a minute. This is the podcast. And then we hadn't talked about I don't think we had talked about having a podcast
That's the show.
Yeah. I don't think we had talked about having a podcast for a while at that point. We had just, previously been like, we really should figure it out and do a podcast. But we kind of just never came up with anything. And then one day I was like, wait, this is it. We're just talking about Star Wars constantly all the time. Why don't we have a show?
Yeah.
We can, one, talk about it even more and get away with it with our wives. And two, I think it would be actually enjoyable to do because it will, involve us more in Star Wars. And I don't know, it brings a different meaning to us talking. Now it brings a different meaning to us talking about Star Wars, and I love it.
It gives it a legitimacy, I guess, maybe.
Sure.
I don't know. No, yeah, I can't even say that because it would be just like you're saying. It would be part of our normal conversation.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is just hey, come here, listen to us talk.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
So, there's people out there that you might not have friends to talk to about Star Wars, and you may enjoy our sense of humor or our take, our sense of humor and our way of discussing things. And if this is a way to,
which is awful, and we both
bring
hate
more
ourselves.
Star Wars into your life or make someone laugh or make someone, think about something related to Star Wars in a way you haven't thought about it before, then awesome. That's great. I hope we can make someone laugh or smile or, enjoy something about Star Wars more because of the show.
Yes.
But we would be talking about Star Wars the way we talk about it on the show, whether we had the show or not.
Right.
And that's because of Star Wars has always been for, at least for me, and I believe
It's
for you as
always
well.
been?
It's just always, as far as I can remember from a very young age. Obviously, I was not around in 77. I didn't go to the theaters and see it as a child, in the 70s because I was not alive.
Yeah.
Because we're both in our upper 20s, and the copy of the original trilogy that I still have is the original cut VHS, not the remastered ones that hit theaters.
Yeah.
Though the remastered that hit theaters were the first time I saw them in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
So
what is it about this? What is it about Star Wars that kept you coming back? Like what made it something bigger than any other sci-fi or whatever fantasy franchise that's out there?
Yeah, I mean, so Star Wars wasn't I know like your dad's a big nerd. My parents, neither of them were like, they don't watch Star Trek or Star Wars. Like they'll watch them now, but like they weren't like Star Wars wasn't around the house when I was a kid,
right?
Like growing up. It was through other friends and like my friend Bradley and his father, and I think that's where I first saw Star Wars was with them at a very young age.
Yeah.
Like being probably like 5, 6, 7.
Okay. Yeah.
Around that time. And of course then the the remastered ones coming to theaters, and that's like the first time I saw it like in theaters. And I remember going and seeing it in theaters, and then coming back from seeing A New Hope, because that was the first one that came out. Going and seeing A New Hope, and I remember coming back and basically just playing outside with a stick as a lightsaber for like the next 6 hours.
The special edition you're talking about, when the special edition went in theaters?
The one with the new CG added in, all that. Okay. That was the first time I saw it in theaters.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, Star Wars with new parts. And I was a kid, and I was like, oh, these are cool. There's new CG things. And now I realize that, why? But, but I came back from that, and it was like, basically just playing in the yard for 6 hours with a stick, pretending to be a Jedi with a lightsaber at that point, because ever since, and that's really the biggest memory that I keep is having, when I went to see it I saw it with my dad, my friend, and his dad. And they took us to the theater. My friend's dad is the one who instigated it for us to go see it, because he was a big fan of Star Wars when he was a kid.
Yeah.
And that's the big memory I have. That's the one that sticks. I know I had heard of or seen it before that, but when it hit theaters again is when I really remember. And it's, obviously at that point there were other movies that had good, graphics or like special effects like that, but there has never been something that hit me like Star Wars did, with the scope of it, like that galactic scope of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like that depth of it is an entire world, and how George Lucas made it feel like an entire universe of just new stuff. And it's like, it was a long time ago, and it's far, far away, but it's all futuristic and super cool. And it was like, just everything about it was just intrigued me from the start, where it's everything was exactly built for me as a child, where it's just like, that is the thing I like, and that is the thing I like, and that's awesome, and that's cool. And everything was just exactly what I wanted as a child in a movie. Yeah. Being that, that futuristic, being the lasers and the swords, like the laser guns and the lightsabers and all of it, the robots and the aliens and just all the special effects, and everything just felt so real, because it was also practical. Yeah. Even though the one I saw in theaters had been kind of unpracticalized by shitty CG. But just that scope of it, I guess, is what really originally brought me in. And that may be just so cliche to say, but just that it was an entire universe of every single thing was completely new and undiscovered. Yeah. And there was so much stuff that I did not know about that I wanted to know more about. Yeah. Which is, then I read the books. I started reading books as a kid, and it never stopped. Yeah. It's just, I'm 29, and I still read the books, and I watch the movies, and I'll sit down on a Saturday morning and watch A New Hope or Empire Strikes Back, or even Force Awakens, and it still gives me chills when the music hits. Like, I'll watch it and I'll still feel something for it. It's not like I'm just putting on a movie in the background. It still affects me and gives me that emotion of, holy shit, there's just so much that just, it just, like we've said with watching like going back and watching Force Awakens, it still feels like home. It's just, it always has just hit that string in me that, there's so much stuff. I'm always, we have this podcast because we're always questioning and talking about, well, what could this mean? And what could exist outside of this thing? Or there's still so much unknown, because we only follow these 5 characters and these handful of worlds. And we get these novels that expand and go into other worlds and other aliens and other things that are happening that we had no idea were already happening. Right. And you can do that forever because it's so huge.
Which is one of the things we were just saying about 8 and 9 now, how it's all green field. Like, anything could happen.
Anything.
And that's so exciting. That's what, and as you're saying that's exactly what kind of kept me in it too, was that idea that you're just kind of, you were dropped in the middle of this, and all this stuff is going on around you. And if you, like, the movies are just focusing on these stories that are happening, and everything's happening at the same time. So you could just, like with the standalone movies, with the books and everything, you just turn the camera a little bit and focus on somebody else. And it's this whole big established thing that is just there, and you're just kind of dropped in the middle of it, and it's all up to you to discover it. Yeah. And so so, I mean, that's the fact that that's what kept me in it all these years, and that's what we're kind of doing with 8 and 9, It's so it's exciting, you know.
Yeah. I mean, and the EU did that for me as a kid and as a young adult, where it was like, wow, there was this old republic, and well, Luke went on and married Mara Jade, and Han and Leia had twins and a third kid, and let's all forget about all that. But
Mon Mothma died.
Yeah. But it's. And as much as people got so angry about the EU being wiped out, and I understand why it needed to be, and because it got so crazy, it got turned into the Wild West. Like I think Pablo had said at one point, it was just, it got messy.
Yeah, exactly. Here's what's different about the EU now. You always had that feeling while you were reading something out of the EU back then, like, oh, how does this fit? Like the timelines don't quite
like if there was a series, usually the series focused on a few characters, like the Rogue Squadron series or something else.
Yeah.
But anything that involved the main cast from the trilogy, it was always like, well, how does this fit in to the other books that also have the main cast that were kind of around the same time?
Yeah.
And it started getting really messy.
Right. Exactly. It was exactly like Pablo was saying. It was the Wild West. But with here, it's kind of a more focused deal, more thought out, and more planned. And they're still bringing in some of the stories, like legitimizing some of those stories, like Thrawn, for example. It's a perfect example of stuff that was great ideas, great stories from the EU.
Like, they're not just trashing stuff that was good.
Right. The EU had a lot of great, incredible stories.
They're having to clean up for Star Wars to be able to continue.
Right.
And anything that helps more Star Wars is fine with me.
Right. So anyway, so they're getting that right, I guess. Like the turning the camera thing of just, focusing on let's look at these people, let's introduce these characters and follow them for a little while. And meanwhile, it all fits into this giant galaxy where, all these things are happening at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like you're saying, I was immersed in Star Wars from a very young age because my dad loved it. I mean, I can't even remember the first time that I saw it. I remember, like, I can visualize sitting on the couch, back in St. Pete where we lived at the time, watching A New Hope for the first time. And the only part I can remember is the battle, the Death Star battle at the end, and just how blown away I was. I was totally into flight stuff. Like I played ATF Gold and all these flight simulators back on like Windows 95 and stuff. Yeah. And like that's what I loved back then. And I guess that's why that part stuck out to me, because it felt so real, but at the same time so foreign, and like it's lasers and space and all this crazy stuff. So yeah, I can picture that moment. And then for some reason that moment, I don't even know if this is true or not, but that moment on was when I was totally in. I'm sure I had toys and stuff before then, but that's the moment that sticks out to me, is watching the trench run and getting that feeling of like, this is real. I mean, it sounds stupid to say it like that, especially now, just as an adult, I guess, I don't know, but it felt real to me. And I still, like I said, I could still picture that moment of having that feeling. And then going on to do stuff like I was talking to somebody a while ago and telling them that I am a fan of Star Wars, and they were like, "Oh yeah, I'm a fan of Star Wars and Star Trek, and yeah, I love sci-fi stuff." I was like, "I don't think you understand what I mean." I would go to the library and rent the Essential Guide to Weapons and Technology. And pour through that book. And, you'd rent it for a couple weeks or whatever, and you'd have to take it back. I would take it back, and then, like, I would get on their website or whatever back when this was all brand new.
Theforce.net.
No, I would get on the library's website and check, like, reservations, to see how many times in a row I could reserve that book, and would like try to check it out, back to back, and just pour over that book and look at all the schematics and read about different weapons and technology, and like just totally get into it. I would rent the X-Wing Squadron trilogy. I'd rent, the what do they call it? The Jedi Academy trilogy. And pour through those books. Like I was in. Like this was real. This was, like you're saying, it was a way for me to drop myself in and find out what's going on with this now, and what happened with this person, around that time, and how do they do that, and like I would try to, as I would read the books, I would try to pick out, oh, that's that weapon from the Essential Guide, and I would go look up the schematic and read all about that weapon. And
someone else saying, I'm a fan of Star Trek and Star Wars and sci-fi. Like, I watched a Star Wars film once a week into my 20s. Like, it wasn't, it's, and that's not to put down anyone that's a casual fan, but it was, I always go back to Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm not this, it sounds stupid to talk about it like this, like to make such a big deal out of it. But it was, I mean, we're just being honest about what it meant. Like it sounds stupid. It sounds like a dumb, like this is just a movie franchise or whatever, or it's all about merch or, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
But, it was something different. It was something real. Even way back then. I remember, I don't know if I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but I remember a little after that time, after I saw A New Hope, this is maybe 1 or 2 years later, I saw my dad brought home a bootleg copy of A Phantom Menace. And it was like, I think it was a cam.
Okay.
From, I want to say it was from Korea. It may have been...
Subtitles hard-coded on?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so. Something like that. Excuse me. But I would watch that constantly, over and over and over again. Yeah. And that lightsaber battle...
Yeah.
Like, a couple people that responded, we asked for Star Wars memories and things that were important. And most of the people that responded mentioned stuff from the prequels.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of interesting. Like, we're kind of moving out of the original trilogy.
It's that age now where people, even people our age, most likely saw Star Wars the first time when the prequels hit theaters, and then were introduced and
the prequels
really started paying attention to Star Wars.
Attack of the Clones in theaters was the first Star Wars movie I saw in theaters, and it sounds dumb. Like I never
so you didn't see the I
didn't see
re-releases.
I had the VHS copies of the special edition, not the original, but the special edition.
Okay.
And we watched those. That's what A New Hope was.
Yeah.
Was a special edition.
Yeah.
But yeah, the first time, I think it was just because of the way we were brought up as kids. I don't know. We didn't go to movies a lot.
Didn't go to the pictures.
And the pictures are too fancy for you, son. You just
no moving pictures for you. Here's a stationary one.
Here's your paintbrush. Please paint the house.
Again.
Make sure you take your SAT while you're at it.
19, well, not even 2012. When was your SATs?
What?
When did you take the SATs? It was like,
No, I was prepping for the SATs when I was 7.
Oh, in the 50s.
In the 50s, yeah. But yeah. Anyway, it was. I lost my train of thought. I don't know what's true.
You saw Attack of the Clones in theaters.
Oh, the prequels, yeah. So the Attack of the Clones was the first, and I remember that first shot of Padme's ship coming through space, and it blows up and everything. I was like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever.
And then that movie just kept taking that.
That's the thing. When I first saw it, I thought it was one of the best movies I've ever seen, and I loved it. But obviously, that is not true. I mean, you go back and watch.
I remember seeing Attack of the Clones and questioning it while I was seeing it.
Really?
As a child, I remember like
I didn't.
Why is there so much with Padme and Anakin? And why did that fruit cut really shittily? I remember thinking that. I was like, that looked off.
I was so excited. It was the first time. It was a premiere. It was the first time I did that whole thing. Like we stood in line with a bunch of nerds.
Nice.
Everybody had lightsabers. There were people dressed up. You know, everybody was applauding when the credits, when the title card came up. You know, it was that whole deal. So it was so exciting that I completely that's how invested I was in the whole deal in Star Wars. Was Attack of the Clones, when I first saw it, looked like the best movie ever. Like it was.
Yeah.
I was so blown away by it. You know. So yeah, it was always more than just a. Like I wanted to, when you were talking about it being, this big expansive story that had already been established, like that kind of thing. I wanted to say that's kind of like, I read the Narnia books when I was, around that same age. And I kind of felt the same thing from that. Like it was this already established thing that these kids were dropped into, and you were just reading and finding out about it.
I mean, that just goes to, I mean, for me at least, that just goes to good storytelling and good
world building.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same with like you said, Narnia. I used to listen to those when I was a kid on a book on tape, and I listened to them with my eyes closed, and I was there.
Right.
Like while it was happening.
Right.
Because it was also established. And that's the same thing. I mean, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings nerd. We don't talk about that on this podcast because it's a Star Wars podcast. But as a kid, I read Lord of the Rings.
Most of the times it's a Star Wars podcast.
Yeah. But as a kid, I read Lord of the Rings like once a year, basically.
Yeah.
The trilogy. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan as well. And it's that.
I didn't get into that until a little later, but
I was in my, like, I was probably closer to 10 maybe.
It was later for me. It was in my teens.
I think it was before teens, but Lord of the Rings it's another thing where that world exists, whether I read that book or not. You know, like you read the book and you're like, all of this happened for real, guys.
That was a little different for me because it was there was an end to it, and it was like you're reading a history book in a way. Does that make sense?
That's the best part.
I know, but I'm saying it's different from this, where it feels like, well, it's hard to describe.
Lord of the Rings, there's still a world that needs rebuilding.
Yes.
The character story ends.
It's hard to describe because obviously Star Wars isn't happening now. You know, it was
a long time ago.
History book, so to speak, whatever.
It was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, Michael.
But it's like you're dropped into it and you're there. It's really happening.
Yeah. But we don't know what all the history was that happened, and we need to find it out.
Yes.
Yeah. There's like all this stuff happened, and
that's what was so.
And it was such a great world building because there's the even outside of Luke and Rey and everything, there's the Force, and like what the shit is any of this, and I want more information.
How does it work?
Yeah.
Fortunately,
so it's like even outside of the characters, there's so much world building and stuff that's just like I want information about everything, not just I want to follow this character's story.
Unfortunately, the Force turned out to be
porgs.
Porgs.
Those little birds. Those little tiny birds.
It's basically Borgs. You're basically the Borg when you.
They have some weird.
They
purchase Star Trek and there's some weird crossover where suddenly.
The Force is Borg. The Borg, right? It's just all a bunch of little things that.
The hive mind.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's what
Borg
it
Force.
is, right?
Borg Force. Yeah.
Borg Force.
Sounds like an energy drink.
People flipping around on camera.
Borg Force.
Borg Force. That's all the commercial is. It's like letters like blinking, coming at you really fast, twirling. Borg Force. And there's people flipping around.
It's just like the art that's on a can of Surge. It's just that, but in commercial form.
Explosions happening, but it's like those obvious overlaid, like
the
fire.
Same explosion, just mirrored and flipped and everything. Yeah.
The thing explodes and fire starts, but there's nothing under it. Borg Force. People doing side flips. Through the lens.
Half-assed parkour where they're not even like,
Borg Force.
Sure.
I want an energy drink called Borg Force now.
I'll make you some labels to throw on some Surge. So hopefully that comes across in the podcast that this isn't something that we just talk about and hopped on a train with. It's something that we hope we try to know about and hopefully already know about many a thing if we can remember the words half the time.
Yeah.
But it's something that we actually care about. And
well, yeah, I mean, this wasn't about trying to prove that we weren't hopping.
No. Right?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I hope because our timing was bad with starting a podcast when Force Awakens came out.
Just because of how our lives worked out.
Just because of how our lives worked out. It was not intentional to hop on any type of bandwagon. It's just that's when we figured out what we wanted to do with having a podcast. And
these podcasts are popular right now.
I'm like looking down my nose at my spectacles at a newspaper. Michael, I see podcasts are on the rise.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So I hopefully at episode 50, I hope it's been enjoyable. I hope our banter and bullshittery about Star Wars and many other things unrelated to Star Wars is enjoyable. And, we try to make the podcast one of just us talking about, realistic, just talking real about Star Wars, whether we like stuff or not, like, hating Rebels or other things. It's not about trying to please anything or always put Star Wars on a pedestal. Some things are right and some things feel wrong, and it's our opinion, but hopefully it's an enjoyable one to listen to at times.
Like we mentioned earlier, it's we asked a few people for their stories. Now that you've kind of heard ours, so
speaking of your father,
my dad sent me something. Thanks, Dad.
All right, Pat.
He said his first Star Wars memory was skipping school in 1977
and 1980.
And in 1980 when Empire came out, and then took a day off work in 1983. He attended all the original awesome. Trilogy premieres. He was there for every one of those. So I never asked him what it was like for A New Hope, like after seeing that.
Like what
was the reaction? What was the Obviously, going into Empire and Jedi, there was already an expectation.
A fandom and a hysteria,
especially with Jedi.
Yeah.
But the original trilogy. So he was there for every premiere. I think he's been there. I know like I said, he took me to Attack of the Clones, and then I think we went to the Revenge of the Sith premiere too. So I can't remember I'd have to ask him if he was there for Phantom Menace, but so far, without me knowing about Phantom Menace, he's been there for every premiere.
Nice.
So far, which is pretty.
But he didn't take
crazy.
You until
to Phantom Menace,
until
the worst one. That was the first one.
I see your ways.
And then he says he had a complete set of Topps trading cards from A New Hope, the original Topps trading cards.
It's like 5 series.
There were 5 series for that movie, and then lost them when he moved out of his parents, my grandparents' home, and has since replaced them all from purchases.
And that's why you didn't go to college.
I did go to college, but I had to pay for it myself.
And that's why you paid for college.
Yeah, that's why I had to pay for college. He collected the first 40 or so Marvel comics. I remember, I think I've mentioned it on the show before. In that collection of comics that he had, so he
from 1977 to 1979.
There was a comic where Han and Chewie had like a space fight. Like a gladiator. Do you remember me talking about this?
Told me about this.
Where the only protection they had in the middle of space was like just a helmet,
fishbowl,
total regular Han Solo costume under that.
That's fine.
That was. I remember reading that, thinking like, "What the poop is going on?"
That's awesome.
He sold the first 10, and bought the original number 1 and 3 in better condition than he originally had. Since then.
Nice.
So yeah, OG.
Your dad is OG and a giant nerd. I think we've talked about it. I think we've talked about having him on at some point. Get his thoughts on newfangled Star Wars.
Dad, do you want to be on the podcast? I think you're watching right now.
Probably. All right, we've got some other things from Twitter. We've got Commander Cody from the Rogue Squadron podcast.
Great show. Everybody go listen to it. Rogue Squadron podcast.
Yes.
Oh, and real quick, before you say this, we had planned to have the guys from a Star Wars comic on as guests for 50. I want to mention that real quick. Those guys are great.
If you have not looked at a Star Wars comic, it is beautiful and very well written.
Very good for just like an amateur. Do they sell it or do they publish? They publish it for free.
It's just
right?
online for free.
Yeah. So it's I don't want to say
they publish every other month a new. It's not like a panel; it's a whole like strip. It's like it's like 4 or 5 pages, I think, of a comic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think it's every other month. But
and I hesitate to use the word amateur because it's not. It looks
it
like
could be in a printed comic book, and you would think it was an official thing from
right. It's
Disney
excellent.
and Star Wars.
So we had planned to have those guys on. That didn't work out. Go check them out.
Yeah.
I think it's
that comic is it's great. You gotta check it out.
I think it's just a Star Wars comic on Twitter.
Yeah.
Isn't it just at a Star Wars comic?
I believe so.
I should probably get that right.
So the tweet we got from Commander Cody at Rogue Squadron podcast, their memory was 11 years old getting the Anakin Pod Racer Lego set for Christmas, which I remember having that one as well.
I don't remember this. Yes, I had this too.
I had the Anakin Pod Racer. That was the only one I had. I had friends who had Anakin and Sebulba and like a third one.
Yeah.
And I hated them. Yeah, the green one. I hated them because they had all of them.
I had the Sith Infiltrator, Darth Maul's ship. Also,
I had a bunch. And my mom got rid of all of them. I don't remember her asking me if she could get rid of all of them. I had a Snowspeeder. I had
Lego,
an X-Wing.
the Lego kit, the original Snowspeeder.
Well,
which was the like really simple
the 90s,
looking one.
Yeah. So the Snowspeeder and the X-Wing, and I had the
Pod
Pod Racer, and I had a Naboo Starfighter, and I basically just had a bunch of the ships. And one day they were gone, and
I had all the original Power of the Force vehicles.
Okay.
So like the Land Speeder, I had Millennium Falcon, I had the X-Wing, I had the TIE Fighter with the pop-off wings.
Nice.
I always wanted Slave One. I think they had a Slave One back then.
I always wanted the Slave One Lego.
I didn't have the Snowspeeder, actually. Didn't have the AT-AT. Okay, I didn't have all of them.
I had 3.
Most of the 4. A friend of mine had the AT-AT, and I hated him because I always wanted that. It was like the giant. I think that it was either the AT-AT or the AT-ST, one of the two.
Nice.
But that was really sweet.
Yeah. So many toys lost to mothers getting rid of things.
Had it, and now it's all gone.
Yeah.
All the original vehicles. Millennium Falcon sells on eBay for like $150 now. Like not even in the box. In the box, it's even more than that.
That sucks.
Sucks.
And then another Twitter user, Jonah Yeager, maybe, JT, said in 2006, first time in Strasbourg, France, got my first Force Effects lightsaber, the Anakin Return of the Sith Blue Hero Saber. First off, Strasbourg, France is amazing. I went there on vacation last year, and it is awesome.
Revenge of
the Sith, sorry. Whatever. Strasbourg, France is amazing. Go there. It's a really cool place. But yeah.
Why is your first Star Wars memory in 2006? Come on, guy.
Get good.
Get a better name.
Great.
We love you. Thanks for listening.
No, that's really cool. I've always wanted a Force Effects lightsaber, and I've never gotten around to it.
Never had the money. Speaking
of Lord of the Rings, I have a full size replica of Aragorn's sword Isildur after it's reforged.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
It's in my closet. I haven't put it up in the new house yet. I've thought of putting it right here.
For the
that's
stream.
Right by all the Star Wars.
For the stream.
But that's right by that's right by the Star Wars wall though, so I don't know. Also, I have a 3-year-old who I'm afraid is going to run in here and like drop a sword on his chest. So
probably the first concern. Maybe the Star Wars wall thing.
No,
that should be your second.
The feng shui of my office is way more important than a sword through my child.
Maybe.
Well, yeah. It's beautiful and I love it. So I spent $200 on that sword, but I don't have a Force Effects lightsaber yet. I should do that at some point.
I came very close.
I really want a saber forged lightsaber.
Yes, those would be great. Yeah. The full metal hilts,
and obviously none of them are none of the branded lightsabers. They're none of the ones that we know. They're just similar,
weighted and all that junk.
Yeah.
I came very very close to buying Luke's the green lightsaber, Luke's lightsaber. The Force Effects one recently. I can't remember when. It's like $150 or something, and I was like, I just want to do this and not regret it. Just throw a credit card at it or something. I don't know, but I didn't.
Good job.
I regret it now. All right, I think we talked enough.
We've probably talked enough. Well,
Let me say real quick, the Star Wars comic guys, it is at a Star Wars comic on Twitter. So please go check them out. The comic is incredible. And eventually we'll have those guys on, either via Skype or in person.
Yes.
Whenever we can get that worked out.
We'll see.
They are locals.
They are local. Yeah.
Or local-ish.
Yes. So
anyway,
thank you all for sticking with us for 50 episodes. There will be enough Star Wars for another 50 episodes, so fingers crossed.
Yep.
But
will there be enough of us for another 50? That's the question.
We may tire out and or die. It happens. Both.
Oh, this is the last episode.
Oh, that's right. We're just gonna fade out to black.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to say that, of course, you can find us on Twitter at Hokey_religion. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on YouTube. This episode is live streaming and will be archived to YouTube for all. Usually the live stream is for Patreon participants only, patrons only. So if you want to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/Hokey Religion. You can give $1 a month at the very least, and you have access to the live streams. And, of course, one of the goals on Patreon is to release those 2 really shitty podcast episodes from our original podcast. So if enough people join on and get us to that goal, that'd be fantastic. 1, to support the podcast, and 2, so that you can all make fun of us with the horrible episodes. And, of course, you can email us at asklobot@hokeyreligion.com. And I think that is all of the places that we are. Of course, if you enjoy the show, please leave us a review on iTunes with however many stars you deem appropriate. Preferably 4 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
Is this our fade out and never returning?
This is the end of Hokey Religion.
Episode 50. Thank you.
No, Hokey Religion.
Goodbye.
Forever. Never coming back. This is it. This is the end.
Goodbye.
Forever. Goodbye.